Today's video will be going over the best teams to join as a running back in college football 25 Road to Glory. Now, just to give you a quick disclaimer, the gameplay that you are seeing on screen is going to be Madden 24 modded on PC with college football teams. So I just wanted to get that out the way. Something else I wanted to let you know is the stats that we're pulling is from the 2023 season on NCAA.com. So if you want to track this information yourself just to get some credibility to it, you can go ahead and do that. But the goal of this video is to help you as a running back get the best experience with a balanced offense, a good offensive line, a passing game that'll work for you, and also a defense that'll help you out, especially if you get up by 1 or 2 scores and you just need to finish the game out and you can trust them. But if you like this style of video, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and hey, let's get into it. Now, the first criteria is teams that ran the ball over 475 times a season. Look, you as a running back, I'm not saying you necessarily want to be the bell cow of the team, and maybe some of you do, but this gives you the option to know that, hey, they'll trust you in a lot of situations, whether that's in the red zone, goal line situations. The second criteria is teams with a top 50 passing offense, which is a great indicator of a solid offensive line. If you have a good passing offense, that means in second and long and third and long situations, you can trust that your QB can actually make the right play, and also your offensive coordinator won't sell you with some crazy play calling when you're 2nd and 8. The last criteria that we have for this is a top 75 rated defense. So that means when you score, you'll have a defense that can hold their own. You just want to make sure you have an opportunity to stop those guys. And of course, a bonus that isn't guaranteed is teams that haven't won a national championship in the modern era. With the new college football playoff system in place, we don't want to put you on a loaded team. We want you to have some fun with it. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into our first team with this, and that's going to be Appalachian State, man. It's an overall solid team across the board, and we'll have your running back walking onto campus ready to make an instant impact. Look, something about Appalachian State is that they finished 9-5 last season in 2023, and most of the losses were by 1 score or less. So literally, you can walk in and be that difference maker to get them over the hump. And they also have a pretty good schedule in place that's going to get them an opportunity to possibly squeeze into that 12-team playoff. Now, Appalachian State had a top 30 passing offense, which lets you know that you won't have to be the ultimate player to bail the team out. Now, the downside is playing in the Sun Belt, so you would have to go undefeated and still may not get invited to the college football playoff. I think the good thing about their schedule this upcoming season is they have Clemson on the schedule, so you really have to win that game in order to get some consideration going into it, and you gotta hope that Clemson has a good season. But if we get into the stats of Appalachian State, their passing offense was 27th in the country, total defense was 63rd, which isn't bad for who they had to play, and rushing attempts 534. You're gonna get a number of opportunities to really lead this team running the ball, and I think that'll be a good look overall. And of course, who doesn't want to play in the mountains with those views? We saw the trailer, and their stadium is going to be one of the best looking in my opinion. Now, the next team we're going to move on to is UTSA, Texas San Antonio, team moving into the American Conference that has a schedule that could get them into the playoffs while they have Texas on it. Texas is a team that just came back off of a playoff invite and actually performed pretty decent in my opinion with that. So if you go in and beat Texas, hey look, that's real consideration. Along with that, they had a top 50 passing offense with a solid defense connected to it. A huge benefit is playing in the Alamo Dome and potentially creating a new home field advantage with over 70,000 fans. Look, that stadium is nothing to sleep on, and so it's going to be one of those things that if you can really get it rocking in there over a couple of years, hey, you're going to be all right. Downside is the lack of knowledge around the roster from a nationwide standpoint. I don't know if EA is going to do their justice with the ratings with that team. Now, of course, they have a few 3-stars on their team, so I'm not sure how that's going to look, but if they do get respected well, you should be okay going to that team. Now, getting into the stats of UTSA, the passing offense was 47th in the country, which isn't bad. You're still cracking the top 50, total defense 55th, and they also had 516 rushing attempts. So once again, Look, you're hitting over 500 attempts in a season. You can easily hit 1,000-yard, maybe 1,500-yard season and multiple touchdowns with a team like UTSA. Now with this team, I feel like this is going to be extremely exciting for a lot of people because look, you're bringing this team back to prominence, and that's Southern Methodist University out of Dallas. It's one of the newest members of the ACC conference and coming off a high-performing year with a top 25 passing offense and a top 15 defense. SMU finished 11-2 last season, beating a confident Tulane team in the bowl game that they went into, and SMU also ranks high among defensive touchdowns with several other teams like Michigan, Clemson, Tennessee, and winning the ACC will get you an instant opportunity to bring that juice back to Dallas. So look, being a new member of a conference, playing a totally different schedule, and a team that isn't looked at to really make any noise, you're going to be really bringing respect to previous backs like Eric Dickerson that was there before the death penalty. So with that, guys, getting into the SMU stats, passing offense 22nd in the country. You're in the top 25 off rip, and they get transfers to go to Dallas, I promise you that. Total defense 12th in the country. Look, their head coach is really locked in on making sure those guys play discipline, and rushing attempts 555 rushing attempts, man. So look, you're going to bring that juice back. You really have a chance to win the ACC, and their schedule does not look like it's going to be crazy going into the ACC. So this should be an easy lock for you if you do your part. Now with the next team, we're talking about Rocky Top, Tennessee Volunteers, and a team with stability at the coaching position with Josh Heupel and a new 5-star quarterback taking the helm with Nico Iamaleava. And now that we know that 5 stars are going to potentially play completely different, I'm assuming that Nico's going to play really well going into his first season and he at least have the ability to make plays down the field. Tennessee had a top 50 passing offense and a top 40 total defense, which puts them in position to compete against some of the best in the country. Downside is getting over the SEC grind against the Georgias, the Bamas, and now you're adding teams like OU into the mix. It can make it tough to get out of the SEC. Now, I'm not saying that they still couldn't get an invitation because we know how the playoff committee does favor the SEC and competitive teams, but look, I feel like the Big Ten, the ACC, those guys, if they play well, they're going to get a lock in the playoff, and it may be bad for you trying to get that extra invite if you take 1 or 2 or 3 losses. Now, getting into the stats, Tennessee's stats, they had a passing offense of 50th. We know they weren't necessarily consistent at that position, especially after their previous quarterback left and went to the NFL. So it is what it is with that. Their total defense is 32nd, which is really solid, and you got 489 rushing attempts. So more than enough opportunities to make something shake, man, and especially with you being there, if you can bring some consistency at the running back position, you could easily increase that total drastically for your team. And the last team we want to go ahead and add to this list specifically is Mizzou, a team loaded with talent at the wide receiver position in Luther Burden III, a top 40 passing offense, and a top 40 total defense. This team is set to compete in the SEC, and they've had some upset wins last season, or if you're a Mizzou fans, you would say that probably isn't an upset. But the overall downside is playing in the SEC. You could probably still make it into the playoffs with 12 spots, but your schedule won't do you any favors, and Mizzou is already on the bottom tier list of SEC teams I think recruits want to go to. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section if you disagree. It's one of those teams now that you have to compete with the OU and the Texases of the world, and look, pulling for recruits to go to either Missouri or Oklahoma or Tennessee, I don't know if it's gonna work out for you. Getting into Mizzou stats, the passing offense 37, so you have some stability there. Total defense 33rd, so you're getting some good stops out here. And rushing attempts 496, so they have really good balance, along with the receiving room that's gonna be powerful with an All-American basically leading the charge for you. So if you get into trouble, he can literally bail you out of certain situations. Now, of course, you know with these videos, I like to do bonus teams in here that aren't necessarily meeting the criteria that we have in place, but they still may be fun to join. And that first team is Nebraska. Look, I know we mentioned this with the receiving video, but having 5-star quarterback Dylan Raiola being the new guy to lead the charge, it's gonna be a good look having 5-star players be better than lower rated players in the game. I think he's gonna be one of those ones that EA is gonna favor. Nebraska had a number 11 total defense ranking, which will make them extremely reliable in the Big Ten, alongside having the number 38 rushing offense, which lets you know that that offensive line has some hogs up front. So you know this offensive line is going to be able to open some massive holes for you, and you're going to be able to just smoothly run through that. You and Dylan Raiola can truly be a 1-2 punch for the next few seasons for the black shirts in the Big Ten and spoil the party for a lot of teams joining. And last but not least, the U, Miami University, man. Miami is an interesting team because they have a top 50 passing offense and a top 25 defense. The kicker with this, right, is that they have a incoming transfer, Cam Ward. Now, if you don't know who Cam Ward is, he was previously the quarterback at Houston 2 years ago and at Washington State. With him heading to Miami, that'll create some massive upside for the offense. Something to note is that Washington State had the 4th ranking passing offense last season, so that shows the impact one player will have on a team like the U. So to have a team like Washington State jump into the top 5 of passing offense because of one player, we know that the U is going to do their part, hopefully with the coaching that they have in place, and the quarterback now that they have is going to be something special down there in Coral Gables. But with that though, the downside is that the U only ran the ball 440 times last season. I know that's an arbitrary number pretty much, because now that you're going to be on the team, that could easily jump to 500 carries, but maybe they didn't have stability at the running back position, who knows? That could be talent, play calling, a number of circumstances could really dictate the number of carries that you get, but we'll just have to see. With that, guys, I hope you found this list extremely helpful. I'm looking forward to finding out more news about college football 25, especially when EA starts releasing that official information for us. Hey, it's a good look. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, man, and let me know what team in the comment section you're going to be joining and why. Outside of that, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Got a feeling Tuesday, I think I'm the greatest candidate. Live it up, life too quick. Right around my new lemonade, my cognac. Hitters in my contact. Live it up, life too